So the first example is when they give you what x is for a number. So they're saying x equals 2, and then they give you a problem. So what you're going to do is wherever there's an x, because there could be more than one. In this problem, there's only one. You're going to plug in whatever they tell you x is. And if a letter is touching a number like this, that means multiply. So you're just going to show it like this. You put parentheses around it, and that means 2 times 2 plus 3. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 3 is 7. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Okay. So if they did b equals 5 and they did b over 25, you would just put a 5 wherever the b was, and the answer would be 5 over 25. And then we know we always have to, when we have a fraction, simplify. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So for something like this, if they did y plus 36, wherever you saw y, you would put 48. So it would be 48 plus 36. And then you would do the math, and it would be 44. Make sense?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, let me get my graph paper. So for graphing, you have the x and y coordinates. And the x coordinate is the first number, and the second number is the y coordinate. So they're going to always give you two numbers. This is the x, and this is the y. So whatever they tell you here is going to go on this line. If it's positive, it's going to go here, and if it's negative, it's going to go here. For the y, if it's positive, it's going to go up here, and if it's negative, it's going to go down here. If it's 0, it's going to go right on the line. So if x is 0, it's going to be on the line somewhere. And so we'll do the examples that she gave was 2 and 5. So you're going to go over 2 and up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to put a point there. The next one is negative 3 and 2. You're going to go down over 3, 1, 2, 3, and then down 2. 1, 2. Next one is negative 7 and 4. So negative 7 is over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know if I got the right coordinates.
I think you did, yeah.
Okay, so that's how you graph it. And then for this one, you would graph it. Usually it's a line, so I'm not sure that I got the right number, but maybe she did a triangle. But do you see how that works? Here's the positive number, so you first do x. It's either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. And then this is the y, and that's the second number. If it's positive, you're going to go up with the number. And if it's negative, you're going to go down with the number.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, now they're talking about adding, subtracting, multiplying fractions and decimals and regular numbers. So we're just going to do adding fractions. 1/3 plus 1 3/4. So you're going to line it up. You're going to find your common denominator. How do you make a 4 into a 12? You multiply it by 3. Anything you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. 3 times 3 is 9. Then this one, how do you make a 3 into a 12? You multiply it by 4. Anything you do to the denominator, you do to the numerator. 1 times 4 is 4. Then you add your numerators. 9 plus 4 is 13 over 12. And then 1 plus 0 equals 1. Now, we know that this is an improper fraction, so we actually have to change this into 1 and 1/12. Do you get how to do that? And then, because this is a 1 and this is a 1, we add them together. This is a whole number, and then this became a whole number. So it's actually 2 and 1/12. And then we make sure that it's simplified. Is 1/12 as simplified as we could go? Yes. Make sense? Okay, if this was a subtraction instead, let me just act like it was a subtraction now. So now we're going to do subtraction. You would do the same exact steps, and now for the last step you would do 9 minus 4 is 5/12, and then 1 minus 0 is 1. Okay, multiplying fractions. 3/5 times 1/8, you would multiply the numerators. 3 times 1 is 3. 5 times 8 is 40. Is that as low as it could go? It is. There's no common number that 3 and 40 share together. Okay. If you have a mixed number like this, then you have to first change it into an improper fraction. So we're going to do 5 times 1 plus 3. So the denominator 5 times 1 is 5. Plus 3 is 8 and over the 5. Does that make sense to you? And then we're going to do 8 times 2 plus 3, which is 19 over 8. Do you know how to cross cancel or no? Did you not learn that?
I think so. We learned that a long time ago.
Okay.
I kind of so, but...
So 8 and 8 turns into a 1 and a 1, and it becomes 19/5. If you don't know how to do that or you don't remember, then we would just multiply across. 8 times 19. Can you use a calculator in your class yet?
We're allowed to, I don't know if we're allowed to do math tests, but we do use the calculator sometimes.
Okay, I'll just use a calculator for this. So it's 152 over 40. And then to change this into a mixed number, how many times does 40 go into 152? 3 times. 3 times 40 is 120. 152 minus 120 is 32. So it's 32 over 40, and then you'd have to simplify it. So we can just use a common number. I know 4 goes into this and this. 8 also goes into it. So I'm going to use 8. Makes my life easier. I don't have to simplify again. So the answer is 3 and 4/5.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now dividing fractions, we're going to do 3/5 divided by 1/3. So here are the steps. You rewrite the first fraction. You change the division into a multiplication. And you flip the second fraction so the numerator becomes the denominator and the denominator becomes the numerator. And then you multiply across. 3 times 3 is 9. 5 times 1 is 5. And now we simplify. 5 goes into 9 one time. 4 is left over 5. All right. If it was a mixed number like 1 and 3/5 divided by 1 and 1/3, then you'd have to change it to a improper fraction first. So we would do 5 times 1 plus 3 is 8/5 divided by 3 times 1 plus 1, 4/3. And then we would do the same process. Rewrite the first fraction, change your division to a multiplication, flip the second fraction, and then multiply across.
Okay.
Then we change to a mixed number, and then we have to simplify. So it's 1 and 1/5. Does that make sense? We have this 1 plus this 1/5. Make sense?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, to do a decimals, adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, right? So to add, we just line up the decimals. So if it was 0.3 plus 0.265 plus 31.2, we line them up according to the decimal. And I always put the biggest one on top, and then everything else can go. It doesn't matter what's bigger or smaller, but I always like to put the bigger one on top. And then I fill everything in with zeros so that I can keep track of my columns and make sure I have everything lined up nice and straight. And then I do 5 plus 0 is 5, 6 plus 0 is 6, 3 plus 2 is 7, and then my decimal stays right here. 1 plus 0 is 1, 3 plus 0 is 3. So it's 31.765. Does that make sense to you, honey? Okay. Next one is that light enough, or do you need a little bit more light on there?
That's light enough. Yeah.
Okay. Same thing with subtraction. So you would line up just two of them. So if we had 31.2 minus 0.3 and minus 265, we can only do two at a time. And the reason why we can only do two at a time is because how would we know what to borrow if we had all of these? It doesn't make sense, right? So we only do two at a time. So we're going to do 2 minus 3. We can't do that, so we turn this into a 12, and then we do our subtraction, right? Then we would do the other one, keeping everything lined up. So you'd get an answer here, and then you would subtract that answer here, and this would be the final answer. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Multiplying fractions, so we're going to do 31.62 times 0.53. So go ahead and do that one and tell me what you get.
Okay. Okay, so that was 6. I got 167,586.
Okay, so we are going to do 2 times 3 is 6. 6 times 3 is 18. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. 3 times 3 is 9. So did you get that for your first row?
Yeah.
Awesome.
All that.
Then you add your 0, and then you're going to cross this out so you don't get confused. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 1 is 31. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. 5 times 3 is 15, and now we add. 6 plus 0 is 6. 8 plus 0 is 8. 4 plus 1 is 5. 9 plus 8 is 17. 5 plus 1 is 6. 1 plus 0 is 1. So you got the right answer, but I think you were a little bit confused on what to do after this step. So what you're going to do is you're going to count how many spaces it goes in from the right. 1, 2. That's where your decimal is. And then 3, 4. So now you put your decimal here and you go 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's 16.7586. And I always rewrite it so that my teacher doesn't get confused on which decimal I'm talking about.
Okay. I forgot it was a decimal problem.
Yeah. Okay. So that is how we multiply, and that last step is super important.
Okay.
All right, dividing decimals. So there's 2 types of decimals that we might have. One is 0.5 and then 6.85, and then it could just be like this. So this is super important to remember. If you do not have a decimal in this part right here, then you just divide like normal, and wherever this is, you're going to keep it in the problem exactly the same place. So 5 goes into 6 how many times? 1.
1.
1 times 5 is 5, and then we subtract. 6 minus 5 is 1, and then we bring down. 5 goes into 18 3 times. 3 times 5, is 15. 18 minus 15 is 3. And then we bring down the 5. 5 goes into 35 7 times. And you can never have a remainder with a decimal. You have to keep going. So if this didn't clear out, we'd keep adding 0, 0, 0, 0 until it did, unless it became a repeating decimal. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the problem happens when there is a decimal on this part in the divisor. Then we have to do another step before we get started. And here is the step. So you have to move it however many times it takes to clear out the decimal. So what I mean by clearing out is it has to be at the back of the number. So for this one, it only took 1. So then we make this go over 1. And then I'm confused on which decimal is the right one. So I'm just going to rewrite the problem.
Okay.
And now the decimal is cleared, and then this decimal is moved over 1. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
If it was 0.15 and then 6.85, then you'd have to go 1, 2, and then this would go 1, 2, and you would move it over 2. But since it was only 1, we only had to move our decimal over 1 spot.
Okay.
And then we just divide like normal, and our decimal stays in the same spot. So 5 goes into 6 1 time. 1 times 5 is 5. 6 minus 5 is 1. Bring down the 8. 5 goes into 18 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. 8 minus 15 is 3. And then you bring down the 5. Our decimal just stays where it is. 5 goes into 35 7 times.
Okay.
Make sense?
Uh-huh.
All right. Awesome.
So...
Do you have any questions about any of that before we get into area?
I don't think so, no.
Okay. You can watch this a few times as well.
Okay.
So, I think it'll make sense. Okay. So, what is the area of a triangle?
Should I tell you, or?
Yeah, how do you figure that out?
They do, I'm pretty sure for triangle you do base times base, or no, sorry, base plus base times height, and then divided by 1/2, and then that's your answer, I think.
Okay. Can you look on your notes and see? Because I do a different formula and I want to use what your teacher uses. So can you look on your notes and see what she tells you?
Like where the formula is?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, sorry, I said 1/2. I meant divided by 2. So for the formula, what we did in class was we did base plus base, and then
Like that.
times the height, and then divided by 2.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So you do it and I will do it and we'll compare answers.
Okay, so for 18 and 6. And I think we're allowed to use our calculator. Actually, I don't know about the test, but
It's okay. What did you get?
I'm dividing it by 2 right now. I'm almost done.
So this is not the formula I use, so I'm going to show you what I got because we will get a different answer. So I'm not sure.
Okay, that's weird. I don't know it.
So this is the formula that I use. 1/2 base times height. So if we had our base, what was our base? 18.
Yeah.
And what was the height? 6, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I would do is 18 times 6 is 108, and then half of that. So I would do 1/2 base times height. So the first step is to write the formula. So you write whatever formula your teacher taught you, but this is the formula I use, so I'm not going to teach you any other way. And then I do 1/2, what's the base? 18, and then what's the height? 6. So you write those out so you fill in what the base is, which is the bottom, and the height number like this. And then we rewrite that 1/2, and then we know that that's 108, right? So you can either do it two ways.
Yeah, I got 108 too. That's
Okay.
my answer.
So 1 times 108, and then divide it by 2. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 5 times 2 is 10. And then we bring down the 8. 2 goes into 8 4 times. There we go. Did you get 54?
I got 108, so I don't know. I could, yeah, I don't know. I got 108, so maybe I just have to.
Did you divide it by 2?
Yeah, I divided it by 2. I got 216 and then divided that by 2.
Okay. Well, that's not the way I do it. But whatever. This is the formula that I use. And one thing we do have to remember is when we're doing area, then it would be units squared. So if it was inches, you would do inches squared. If it was feet, you would do feet squared, like that. So whatever the label is here, centimeters, whatever it is, you always have to do it squared. So you would do feet and then a squared sign like that. Perimeter is just regular old units like feet, inches, whatever. But area, anytime you do area, it's always squared as your answer. Okay, now we're going to do area of a parallelogram. So let's find some numbers for a parallelogram. No, I need image. There we go. So,
Yeah, I don't know, that's weird. I have on my notes base plus base times height divided by 2. Oh, I don't know.
yeah, weird. All right, so here's a parallelogram. I was hoping to find a, there we go. Ah. Well, I'll just make up my own. Why are they not giving me any? Okay, so for a parallelogram, let's say this is 6 and this is what? Maybe 8. So this is your base and this is your height. And the formula, so the first thing you do is always write the formula. So you're going to do A equals B times H. And then you're going to do A equals, what's the base? 8 times 6. So you write it like that. Or you can write it like this. You can use a dot or parentheses. And then A equals 48. And then say this was centimeters, then you would do centimeters squared, because area is always squared. So is this the formula that you have for parallelogram?
Yeah, you just multiply the height and base, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, okay, I'm sorry to interrupt, but
No.
I was just looking at my notes, and I think I might have messed up. I don't know for sure, but I was trying to go back and I guess I was looking on area of trapezoids, so I think that might be the formula for trapezoids.
Okay, because the area for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. That's just the answer. I can't imagine. So you're saying for a trapezoid?
I wrote for trapezoids, base plus base times height divided by 2, and
Okay, you're kind of right. So it is, the trapezoid is A equals A plus B times H. So it's A plus B divided by 2 times 8. So that, but you're not doing trapezoid for the problem, right?
I don't think so. So I just have to do triangle. Wait, so, okay, yeah, I think I'm not, because I kind of, like, did the notes, like, on the same page, so I think I messed up on that.
Okay, we'll do a trapezoid, but, so for triangle, it's 1/2 base times height. This is the base, this is the height, and then you just multiply these together and then divide it by 2. So if this was 5 and this was 6, it would be 30 divided by 2.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll do an example of a trapezoid, just so you have it. You're not going to use it tomorrow or Friday, but okay. So here's a trapezoid, and we have base 1 is 8 centimeters. Base 2 is 6 centimeters. And then the height is 10 centimeters.
Okay.
So we can show it different ways. 1/2 height times B1 plus B2. Or we can do A plus B divided by 2 times H. Doesn't matter. It's the same thing. So you can do whatever you want. I like this better, so I'm going to do this. So A plus B. So 8 plus 6 divided by 2. And then our height is times 10. So we're going to do 14 times 2. 14 divided by 2 times 10. And then we know 14 divided by 2 is 7 times 10. And then it's 70 centimeters squared.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I just said, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to end the video and then we'll do some of the problems.